April 2, 2016. The desert air above Nevada shimmered under the rising sun as Captain Elise Monroe walked toward her jet with the calm confidence of someone born to fly. A decorated pilot, just 31 years old, Elise had already logged over 1,200 flight hours and was known among her peers for her razor-sharp instincts and steel nerves. That morning, she climbed into the cockpit of an experimental stealth aircraft designated X-93 Phantom, top-secret military project so advanced that only 4 people in the country were authorized to fly it. The mission was classified as routine, a solo atmospheric test flight lasting no more than 45 minutes. She was scheduled to perform a series of altitude maneuvers, monitor new telemetry software, and return before the base's noon flight log closed. As she taxied to the runway, Elise gave the all-clear. "Ghostbird 1, systems green," she radioed to the tower. "Lifting off now." At 8:04 a.m., her jet lifted cleanly off the runway and soared into the sky, and then just 4 minutes later, it was gone. No explosion, no radar blip, no emergency beacon. One moment Elise's jet was climbing through 40,000 feet, then, complete silence. The radar screen at Nellis Air Force Base showed only a blank space where her transponder had just been blinking. Air traffic control attempted contact. "Ghostbird 1, report status." No reply. A second call. A third. Static panic spread through the command tower. Emergency teams were scrambled. Aerial units launched within 10 minutes, searching the projected flight path. Within an hour, ground teams were scouring vast stretches of Nevada's high desert. They expected wreckage, smoke, something. But there was nothing. Not a single trace. No debris, no black box ping, no scorch marks. The jet and Elise had vanished as though swallowed by the sky. The Air Force released a statement calling it a probable systems failure, but internally, officers were baffled. Jets didn't just disappear. Even the most catastrophic malfunctions left traces: radar trails, crash sites, wreckage fields. But this was different. By the end of day 1, Elise's family was notified. Her parents, living in Colorado Springs, were told she was missing during flight operations. Her brother Josh was stunned into silence. Elise was no rookie. She knew every bolt of that jet. He refused to believe she'd crashed. "She's out there," he told reporters. "They just don't know where to look." Over the following weeks, the search widened. Over 2,000 square miles were combed by helicopters, drones, and ground crews. Nothing was found. The operation cost millions, but yielded zero answers. Behind closed doors, rumors began to circulate among base personnel. Some said Elise had been testing more than just software, that her jet was equipped with experimental propulsion not even other pilots knew about. Others whispered about radio interference and magnetic pulses that disrupted satellite feeds the moment she disappeared. A few even brought up something stranger, reports from other pilots of metallic anomalies in the sky that vanished when approached, almost like mirages. The official report buried these accounts. After 2 months, the search was quietly shut. Down. Captain Elise Monroe was declared missing in action. Her name was etched into the base's wall of honor. But not everyone accepted the story they were given. Especially not Josh. To the world, Elise became just another mysterious military loss. To conspiracy forums, she became a case study in government secrets. To her family, she was still alive, somewhere. And then, exactly 9 years later, something happened that made headlines across the country. At an abandoned military airfield in Arizona, Hangar 47 long since sealed, lit up with movement sensors. The night guard, thinking it was a false alarm, checked the security feed. What he saw made him drop his coffee. Inside the sealed hangar, a jet was powering up, a jet that shouldn't exist, A jet that had been missing since 2016. And on inside, just below the canopy, painted in military white, Ghostbird 1, capped. E. Monroe asterisk. From the moment the military told him his sister was missing in action, Josh Monroe refused to believe a word of it. He had grown up idolizing Elise. While others talked about superheroes, he bragged about his big sister, brilliant, fearless, destined for the skies. She wasn't just a pilot to him. She was a compass. And the idea that someone so capable could vanish without explanation made no sense. At first, he tried to play by the rules. He called the Air Force, submitted information requests, even met with a liaison officer who offered polite condolences and carefully scripted answers. But every conversation ended the same way. That information is classified. The more they stonewalled him, the more convinced he became that the story they'd fed the public was a cover up. So, Josh began his own investigation. He started a website findelise.org, a digital tribute to his sister, filled with photos, videos, and a timeline of her final flight. Within weeks, veterans, amateur sleuths, and ex-military techies reached out with leads. Some claimed they had access to flight data. Others remembered strange activity near the Nevada test and training range on the morning Elise vanished, odd radar signatures, power surges, even a loud sonic boom reported by ranchers 60 miles off course. One former engineer messaged Josh anonymously and wrote, "If she was flying what I think she was, it wasn't just a jet. It was a key." That cryptic phrase stuck with Josh. For years, he compiled everything: satellite data, leaked documents, even interviews with retired Air Force personnel. Some confirmed Elise's final mission had no record in the base's standard flight logs. Others hinted she was working under a program called Dark Halo, buried under layers of compartmentalized clearance levels. What exactly Dark Halo was, no one could say. But Josh knew this. Elise had been sent up to test something new, something dangerous. As years passed, interest faded. The military issued no new statements. Friends stopped asking. The world moved on. But Josh didn't. Every year on April 2nd, the anniversary of her disappearance, Josh would post a new message on his website. Not flashy, not dramatic. Just a simple note that read, "Still waiting, Ghostbird 1. I haven't stopped looking." 9 years later, on the evening of April 2nd, 2025, Josh lit a candle in his apartment, like he always did. He looked over old case files, opened his inbox, and scrolled through 100 unread messages from enthusiasts, hoaxers, and trolls. Then he uploaded his annual message and closed his laptop. He had no idea that hundreds of miles away, something extraordinary was happening. At precisely 11:27 p.m., Hangar 47B at Crimson Mesa Airfield, a mothballed base in Arizona, registered an internal movement alert. The hangar had been sealed shut for almost a decade. Power lines to it were inactive, and access had been disabled long ago. And yet somehow, the security system picked up motion, followed by a flicker in the old GRID. A single red warning light blinked on. The guard on duty, Private Laney Ramirez, assumed it was a malfunction. Curious, she opened the live security feed and froze. Inside the sealed hangar, something massive stirred beneath the dust and darkness. Spotlights flickered on one by one, illuminating the sleek, ominous shape of a jet fighter. Its rear thrusters glowed faintly. Engines hissed like a sleeping beast waking up. Ramirez stared, confused, until the camera zoomed on a familiar detail. There, on the fuselage, painted in worn military stencil, Ghostbird 1, capped E. Monroe. Ramirez's heart raced. She knew the name. Everyone in the Air Force did. It was the ghost jet, the one that vanished. Within minutes, alarms blared. Sirens howled across the empty airfield. Teams were scrambled. Officers raced to the hangar. They expected sabotage, or a prank, maybe some forgotten. Drone on autopilot. What they found was silence. No one had opened the hangar. No one had activated anything. And the jet inside? It was exactly as it had been the day Elise disappeared. Except now, it was alive. By the time the rapid response team reached Hangar 47B, the old steel doors were glowing with heat. Not red hot, not melting but humming, like metal holding a silent current. Soldiers kept their distance, waiting for orders, unsure whether the thing inside was powering up or preparing to launch. Crimson Mesa Airfield hadn't been operational since 2018. It was used only for storage long-forgotten crates, mothballed drones, and surplus gear. No working aircraft, no flight-ready fuel, and certainly no staff authorized to operate something like Ghostbird 1. Captain Elise Monroe's jet had been presumed destroyed. Yet here it was, humming inside a sealed hangar no one had accessed in years. Major Voss, the officer in charge of the team, approached cautiously. With a remote infrared scanner, the jet's engines read warm active, but not overheated. Power levels inside the hangar were unstable, flickering like a surge had blown part of the grid. When he pressed his hand against the hangar's exterior panel, it buzzed like a living thing. There's no feed from inside, a tech reported. It's like the cameras rebooted themselves, just a blank 5-minute gap between the alarm and now. The hangar had one entrance, locked, welded shut after the base was decommissioned. Yet something inside had turned on an aircraft that should have been grounded forever. When they finally breached the door with an emergency override and cutting tools, the smell of ozone and fuel filled the air. Everyone tensed, rifles raised. Silence inside. And then they saw it. There, in the center of the hangar, Ghostbird 1 stood like a monument, sleek, impossibly clean. Not a trace of dust on its midnight black shell. The paint was untouched by time. Its landing gear was locked. Engine heat still radiated faintly from its exhaust ports. Its HUD was glowing softly, as if awaiting input. But no one was inside. The cockpit was sealed shut, but empty. The pilot's seat untouched. No signs of life. On the far side of the hangar, near an old storage panel, a maintenance grate had been pried open, not by force, but by hand. Behind it, tucked into the shadows, investigators found something more disturbing. A military duffel bag, aged but intact, marked with Elise Monroe's name tag. Inside were rations, a cracked pair of aviator sunglasses, a flashlight, 2 notebooks, 1 paper, 1 digital. The paper journal was water-stained, pages curled from use. The final entry read, "Still trying to figure out the year. Can't find a clock that works. Keep hearing the jet click in the dark. Is it responding to me? Or something else? If I don't make it out, tell Josh I didn't give up." The digital recorder contained several audio files scrambled, but clearly Elise's voice, breathing, talking to herself, describing places that didn't match any known coordinates. Then a phrase, repeated 3 times. "I think I slipped through, but I'm not the only one." Major Voss didn't like what he was seeing. The hangar showed no forced entry. The systems inside had rebooted on their own. The jet was somehow in pristine condition, but the base had been locked down for nearly a decade. No power, no maintenance, no explanation. And then the most chilling discovery of all. According to the security logs, the hangar's last known access authorization, the digital signature that had triggered the doors and power, was tied to a pilot ID long deactivated. Captain Elise Monroe. But that wasn't possible. Her ID was wiped after she was declared missing. A week after the incident, the Air Force dispatched a Black Ops unit to secure the site, The jet was not removed. It was too volatile, they said. Too unknown. The hangar was sealed once again. Time guarded around the clock, but the story was already leaking. Someone on the response team took a photo. Within hours, it landed on an encrypted forum. A jet that vanished 9 years ago. A pilot presumed dead. And now, a machine that had powered itself back on ... waiting. Some said it was a glitch in time. Others said Elise had returned. But if she had, where was she now? After the initial shock of discovering Ghostbird 1 alive inside the long-dormant hangar, the recovery team began a meticulous sweep of the scene. What they found only deepened the mystery. There were no signs of forced entry, no digital breach, no physical damage. The main hangar doors had been welded shut from the outside since the base closed, and the perimeter security system hadn't recorded a single entry in 9 years until the jet activated itself. There were no tire marks, no footprints, no tool marks on the ground. It was as if the jet had simply appeared. Inside, the air was warm, not humid or stale, but electrically charged, like static after a thunderstorm. The jet's engines were no longer glowing, but the fuselage was still warm to the touch, despite no known power source. Military engineers examined the console. Everything worked. Every system green. The fuel cells were 82% full, impossible, since the plane hadn't been serviced in nearly a decade. Even more baffling, the onboard computer contained recent flight data, showing an approach vector toward the hangar, dated only 4 days earlier. Someone flew it here, one engineer whispered. But from where? Another reported the cockpit was sealed, not locked, closed. No one had opened it in years. When they finally popped the canopy open, expecting to find remains, or at least some find the craft, they were met with silence. It was completely empty. No pilot, no gear, not even dust. But the seat showed clear signs of recent use. The harness was twisted, pulled halfway. Finger smudges, instrument panel. One of the auxiliary toggle switches was flipped on deliberately. It had been in that cockpit recently. There was no doubt in a small compartment behind the pilot's seat. They found something more personal. Silver lock on the chain. Inside was a faded photo of Elise and Josh's kids standing in front of their childhood home, beaming into the sun. Back of the bucket was etched with the word, "Come safe." Why would she leave this behind? Major Voss asked. Aloud. No one answered. They also recovered her old flight helmet, custom painted with a red hawk feather on the side, the symbol Elise had chosen as her call sign emblem, Ghostbird. Inside the lining were handwritten notes, possibly coordinates, or timestamps. But they didn't match any known location or time standard. Not military. Not civilian. Some of the numbers weren't even formatted, like coordinates at all, more like equations. Then came the crawl space. Near the far wall, tucked behind the jet's tail fin, was an old maintenance panel that had clearly been opened by hand. Behind it, investigators discovered a narrow crawl space, barely large enough for someone to rest in. Inside, they found scattered evidence someone had been living or hiding there. Empty water pouches, protein bar wrappers, a crumpled emergency blanket, a watch that had stopped on April 4, 2016, 2 days after Elise disappeared, and more notebooks. These journals were different, scratched in a rush, filled with panicked handwriting and fragmented thoughts. Can't tell if it's night or day anymore. The hangar hums like it knows I'm here. Saw someone watching through the cracks. Too tall. Didn't move right. Jet responded to me last night. Lights came on when I touched the floor. Time's broken. This place isn't a base, it's a loop. No one could make sense of it. Not yet, but one entry sent chills through everyone on the team. I flew home. I landed, but no one was there. Time's wrong. I don't think I came back to the same world. That was the last page. The military immediately classified everything. The hangar was sealed off again, but now with 24/7 surveillance. Ghostbird 1 was kept inside, powered down, but engineers noted the jet still drew ambient power. Somehow, like it was still connected to something, or waiting for someone. Meanwhile, Josh Monroe was called in under the guise of helping identify recovered personal items. When they showed him the locket, he broke down. She was there, he whispered. She came back. He just didn't know how, or for how long. 3 days after the incident at Hangar 47B, nearly 400 miles away in Albuquerque, New Mexico, a woman walked barefoot into a VA clinic just after dawn. She was dressed in a faded, desert-worn flight suit, patched, stained, and fraying at the seams. Her eyes were bloodshot, her lips cracked. Her face looked burned from the sun. She clutched her helmet like it was a lifeline. "I need to speak to Commander Price," she said softly to the nurse at the front desk. "Tell him Captain Elise Monroe is back." The nurse blinked. "I'm sorry, Price," the woman repeated, breathing heavily. "He runs Nellis now, doesn't he? I just need to debrief. Am I still in Nevada?" The nurse stared at her. Commander Ronald Price had died in 2018. Security was called. Paramedics were rushed in, assuming she was delusional, dehydrated, or suffering from heat stroke. But when the ER nurse tried to remove her flight suit, she fought them with trained precision, disabling 2 staff members before collapsing from exhaustion. Her hands bore the calluses of a pilot. Her military ID tag still around her neck read, Monroe. Elise decapped, USAF serial 042316. Ghostin attending physician, who'd served in the military, glanced at the tag and froze. "That can't be real," he muttered. "That's the ghost pilot." The woman was stabilized and sedated. Her vitals were normal, if elevated. Blood tests showed nothing unusual. No drugs, no radiation, no exposure markers that would indicate trauma or time in extreme environments. But when a nurse entered her data into the hospital system, red flags lit up across 3 military databases. 15 minutes later, 2 unmarked black SUVs pulled into the back of the clinic. Within the hour, the woman was gone. No transfer papers, no destination, just gone. But someone had seen her. Nurse Camila Estrada didn't buy the story. She was later told that the woman was a confused impersonator with stolen tags. The moment she'd looked into her eyes, Camila felt it. That wasn't someone pretending. That was someone coming home from something terrifying. So Camila did something bold. While cleaning up the patient's room, she found the woman's gloves left on a chair in the chaos of her removal. Tucked inside the lining was a small photo. 2 children in front of a house. The same image now plastered across conspiracy forums, Reddit threads, and classified doc leaks under the title, Find Elise. Camila sent the photo, along with a description of the woman, to the contact listed on the website. The email read simply, "She came in today. I think it was her. She asked for Commander Price. Then they took her. Please tell me I'm not crazy." Josh Monroe read the message 5 times before calling the number. Camila answered with 1 word. "Elise." Josh's voice cracked. "Where is she now?" "I don't know," she replied. "But whoever came for her, they didn't look like hospital staff. They didn't even speak." That night, Josh drove to Albuquerque. He didn't care about protocol or warnings anymore. He had a flash drive full of data from the hangar logs, a photo of the jet. And now, he had something more powerful than evidence, a witness. But he didn't get far. As he crossed the New Mexico border, his car was pulled over by a black SUV with government plates. Two plainclothes agents approached. "Mr. Monroe," one said, "you've been asked repeatedly to stop digging." "I'm not digging," he replied. "I'm following my sister." The agent smiled coldly. "She's not your sister anymore. She's government property now." Josh refused to back down. "I want proof she's alive," he said, "or I go to the press. I'll release everything." The agent looked amused. "What makes you think the press will believe you?" Josh didn't blink, because this time I have more than questions. I have witnesses. I have audio. I have her voice. For the first time, the agents hesitated. They took his laptop and phone, but let him go. A warning, not a disappearance. And later that night, when Josh opened the backup flash drive hidden in his shoe, he found a new audio file, one that hadn't been there before. Elise's voice. "I didn't come back alone." Asterisk, they moved her deep underground, not a prison. Not a hospital. A containment facility off-grid, unregistered and nearly invisible from satellite imaging. Officially, it didn't exist. Unofficially, it housed only one person, Captain Elise Monroe. She was kept under bright lights, constant observation, and silence. No windows. No clocks. No voices unless spoken to. The men and women who monitored her wore no insignias. She didn't know if they were military, intelligence, or something else entirely. But she remembered everything. The interrogations began slowly. Calm voices. Clinical questions. What happened on the flight? What did she see? Where had she been? Elise didn't hesitate. She told them exactly what happened. About 10 minutes into the flight, she said, "I saw something high altitude, above 70,000 feet. Not a drone, not a bird. A structure, metallic, shimmering. It moved like liquid, but didn't change shape. I tried to report it. My radio cut out. Then the sky ... folded." Folded? The man in the suit asked. Elise nodded. "It turned black. Not like night. Like everything stopped. My instruments died. The horizon disappeared. It felt like time just paused." She described an immense pressure, like being crushed inward without pain. Then silence. Then light. "I woke up in the desert," she continued. "But it wasn't the same place. It looked like the world ... had aged." They asked for coordinates, details, threats. She told them about the dust storms that didn't obey the wind. The radio towers broadcasting static. The old cities buried in sand, with rusted streetlights and buildings that looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. No people, no animals. Only shadows. And something else. I wasn't alone. That made them pause. "What do you mean?" "I think ... something followed me through," she said. "Not human. Not hostile, exactly. Curious, like it watched me while I slept. It never came close, but I always knew it was there. It moved like it was skipping frames, like time didn't apply to it." She said the jet still worked, but barely. Some systems flickered as if caught between frequencies. It took her weeks to find the hangar. It wasn't on any of her maps. She believed it was a remnant, some version of Crimson Mesa, pulled through with her. A place that hadn't aged, caught in a loop. "I landed," she said. "I powered it down, waited, slept in the walls. I thought someone would find me." "And did they?" "No," she said flatly. "I found you." At that, the man in the suit leaned forward. "You mean you returned to our timeline? You crossed back?" She shook her head. "I don't think I ever left." That statement unsettled them more than anything else she'd said. In the following days, Elise began to feel watched, not just by the cameras, but by something else. At night, her room buzzed softly, like electricity humming inside the walls. Sometimes she heard whispers, not words, just tones, like the low moan of a distant engine. The staff dismissed it as psychological trauma. But one night, the surveillance feed glitched for exactly 4 minutes and 22 seconds. When the monitors came back online, Elise was standing in the center of the room, eyes closed, whispering something over and over. "It knows I'm here. It knows you're listening." The next morning, her cell was empty. No signs of escape. No alarms triggered. No guards missing. Just gone. A full lockdown was issued. Officials swarmed the facility. Every inch was scanned, every feed reviewed. The only clue left behind was a single sentence scratched into the mirror in her cell, done with something sharp, maybe her dog tag. "You opened the door. Now it won't close." Outside the facility, Josh Monroe was already on the move. That night, he received a package with no return address. Inside was a flash drive, and a note written in a hand he hadn't seen in 9 years. "They'll tell you I never existed, but you know better. Don't stop now." The flash drive contained cockpit footage. Grainy, distorted, but in one frame paused. Perfectly, you could see it. Something in the clouds, not lightning. Not weather, a shape bending. Around her jet like a halo of metal and mist. Something watching, waiting. The world never heard about Elise Monroe's return. Officially, she had never come back. The clinic visit in Albuquerque? Misidentified. The activity in Hangar 47B? Classified as a thermal anomaly caused by faulty wiring. No news outlets picked up the story because none were allowed to. Journalists who tried found their articles pulled, their sources disconnected, and in one case, their credentials revoked within 24 hours. Behind the curtain, the government moved quickly. The footage from Ghostbird, one's onboard camera showing the anomaly in the clouds, was seized. The engineers who examined the jet were reassigned or discharged. And the Crimson Mesa base? Reclassified and buried under new black budget funding, labeled only as Project Echo Dust. Josh Monroe knew what this meant. They were trying to erase her again. But this time, he wasn't alone. Thanks to the flash drive Elise had left behind, Josh had enough to build a digital case. The cockpit footage, the journal scans, satellite data around the day of her reappearance. Even snippets of Elise's own voice, whispering about time fractures, unexplainable beings, and a place where the Earth looked, almost but not quite like home. One particular file shook him most, a scrambled log entry titled Delta Shift 4.1316. It contained a voice, Elise's, and something else layered beneath it. Something that didn't sound human. It spoke in tones, almost like a coded hum. Analysts Josh contacted described it as a non-Earth audio structure, not alien, necessarily, but certainly non-local. He posted fragments of this online, not under his name, but through a burner account called Loopwatch01. Within a week, thousands of users were dissecting the data. Forums lit up. Fringe scientists, rogue military analysts, and conspiracy theorists alike began calling it the Ghostbird signal. But then, the shutdowns began. Websites disappeared overnight. Reddit. Threads deleted. YouTube breakdowns scrubbed clean. People who shared or mirrored the cockpit footage received cease and desist orders or worse. Silence. One user posted, "I analyzed the waveform in the Ghostbird signal. It's not a sound. It's a map." Then they went offline. Josh realized what he feared most. Whatever Elise had encountered hadn't just come back with her. It had followed her. Or maybe it had never left. Maybe her reappearance triggered something. A signal. A return path. A breach. The flash drive contained one final encrypted folder. He couldn't open it alone. It required a key, something only Elise would have known. For weeks, he tried birthdays, passcodes, military codes. Nothing worked. Until he remembered something from childhood. Elise had a favorite phrase she used whenever she pushed herself too far. Altitude is just attitude. He typed it in. The folder opened. Inside was a final message from Elise. A video. She sat in the cockpit, helmet off, face drawn but calm. Behind her, the sky outside was golden, shimmering, unnatural. "If you're seeing this, I'm gone again," she said. "Not because I want to be, but because I have to be. They think I brought something back, but they're wrong. I never left. I crossed over into a fold, a parallel stream that touches ours and fractures." Ghostbird found a tear and slipped through. She leaned forward. "I've seen other pilots. People who vanished like me. Some came through in pieces. Some never left the fold. There's a pattern, a loop. Someone or something is watching the ones who go too far." Josh watched in stunned silence as she said her final words. "This isn't just about me. It's about what we're becoming. The sky isn't ours anymore. It never was. Tell them, warn them, because soon it'll be open for good." The screen went black. Then flickered once and glitched into a frame Josh would never forget. A silhouette vaguely human standing behind Elise. Tall, featureless, flickering. Like bad footage. Then gone. Josh shut his laptop. His phone rang. An unknown number. No voice. Just static and a single word, almost a whisper buried in the sound. Ghostbird. Asterisk. The hangar at Crimson Mesa was sealed tighter than ever. Triple perimeter fencing. Facial recognition checkpoints. Armed guards stationed at every corner. No one without direct clearance from the highest levels of military intelligence got anywhere near Hangar 47B. But inside, untouched, unmoved, and utterly unchanged, Ghostbird 1 remained. Her midnight black fuselage sat in perfect silence beneath the high steel ceiling. No one dared open the cockpit again. No one attempted to move the jet. Any approach without protocol triggered electromagnetic interference across the entire base. Sensors fried. Communications jammed. The aircraft, if it could still be called, that was now something far beyond what its creators intended. Engineers no longer referred to it as a jet. They called it a vessel. Every 37 days, at exactly 2:14 a.m., Ghostbird 1 powered up on its own. For exactly 7 minutes, the system would come alive, lights glowing, HUD flickering, energy pulsing beneath the skin like a heartbeat. No human triggered it. No one touched a thing. The lights would rise, the air would hum, and then nothing. Silence. Again, the hangar would return to its artificial stillness, as though nothing had happened, except each time something small changed: the temperature, the static level in the walls. Once, a note appeared on the jet's console. Almost there. It disappeared before technicians could record it. Another time, the hangar door clicked, unlocked, then relocked itself. Each anomaly was recorded, filed, and immediately classified. But the frequency never changed. Every 37 days. Exactly 2:14. A .m.7 minutes. And always alone. Or so they thought. Josh Monroe never stopped watching. He relocated to New Mexico, where he lived quietly under the radar. Using satellite feeds, infrared sensors, and tips from anonymous insiders, he created a private network of observers, former engineers, pilots, believers, and scientists. They called themselves Echo Circle. Together, they tracked fluctuations in power grids, strange radar loops, unexplained skylights, and the now documented Ghostbird hum reported near various airbases at night. Each time, the pattern was the same: lights, vibration, time distortion, and then silence. Josh believed Elise was still reaching out, trapped in a space that wasn't space, caught in a loop that only she could understand. Not dead, not missing dot in motion. Her final message had been a warning. The sky isn't ours. It never was. It haunted him. He pored over the files nightly. He still wore her dog tag, now weathered, the engraving nearly worn away. His website, once a lonely tribute, had become a forum for data, theory, and connection. Others had experienced anomalies, lost time, sky glitches, memory fractures after high-altitude flights. Not all of them survived. Some returned speaking in patterns. Others didn't speak at all. And still, Ghostbird 1 waited. On the 9th activation, cycle after Elise's disappearance from the Black Site facility, something new happened. At exactly 2:14 a.m., the cameras inside Hangar 47B cut the static. For 47 seconds, there was nothing. When the feed returned, a figure stood beside the jet. Female. Wearing a flight suit, helmet off, hair down. She turned toward the camera. Her face was shadowed, but unmistakable. Elise Monroe. She placed her hand on the jet, leaned in, and whispered something unheard through the feed. Then she turned and walked behind the vessel. And vanished. Not walked out. Vanished. No exit door. No motion sensors tripped. No trace. Just gone. The jet powered down moments later. Its final system message, retrieved by the on-site AI log, was just one word: looping. Since that night, the military stopped trying to explain it. They no longer asked how or why. They simply watched. Waited. Observed. Because whatever Elise Monroe had become, wherever she had gone, she had changed something. Time didn't bend around Ghostbird 1 anymore. It followed it. And deep inside Hangar 47B, wrapped in silence, shrouded in shadows, the jet still waits for the day the door opens again. Not if. When.